Hello everybody, this is Daniel Wynn. Welcome to today's session. Today I want to go over underwriting loans, real estate investor loans, whether it's a purchase, a rental, fix and flip, or cash out. I want to share with you some basic guidelines that you need to understand if you want to become a successful private money lender. So let's get started. Loan underwriting, what is it? It's basically analyzing the risk of the transaction and determining whether or not you want to lend your money or possibly broker the deal if you understand the underwriting guidelines of other lenders that you could share these deals that you pass on. It's assessing the borrower's capacity, valuing the property, and determining the overall ability of the borrower to execute this plan that they have presented to you when they ask to borrow the money. Okay. So I want to go over what I was taught many years ago called the 4 C's of underwriting. And it's credit, character, capital, and collateral. And I want to go over these very thoroughly in the next few slides and give you some scenarios that you can consider, because here it is in black and white. This is true, this is what I'm going to share with you, but there's always nuances that you're going to need to learn to become a successful private money lender. So credit. Credit refers to the borrower's ability or the investor's creditworthiness and their history for managing and repaying debts. Now look, everybody wants to have or I would say most lenders would prefer to have a lender with a borrower with a perfect credit score, 680 or 700. Those are the people that don't need the money. Those are the people that can go anywhere to borrow the money. If they have a 700 credit score and a low loan to value, they don't need to pay us, the private money lender, 12% if they can go to the bank and get 5 or 6% or less. So this is a really interesting part of the business. I get many customers that have high FICO scores and many customers that have low FICO scores. And let me tell you how I work this out in my brain. If a borrower has a low credit score, but I like the property and I like the deal, then I will just ratchet down my loan to value. Instead of lending 65% loan to value max, I might be at 50 or 35% loan to value. I have many loans in my portfolio that are under 35% loan to value. Why would I turn away? It's a beautiful property, has a lot of value. The borrower has bad credit for whatever reason, but I like the borrower and I like the property that the borrower is presenting as collateral. And this is the nuance of the business and nuance of credit. Yes, when you get a 700 credit, when we receive a 700 credit score, we try to give them a better rate. Maybe they pay 10 or 11% with us. But if a borrower has a lower credit score, we lower the loan to value, like I just said, and maybe their rate's going to be 13%. So this is the teeter-totter of lending when it comes to credit. So I would say that, yes, you're always going to look at somebody's credit and their ability to repay, and you're going to make your overall underwriting decision based on not only the credit, but the loan to value. Borrower's character. It's important that we deal with borrowers that have good character, right? Now, when you're a private money lender and people have good credit and bad credit, whether they're salespeople or CEOs or dentists or whatever, character varies on every single person along every socioeconomic ladder the whole 30 years that I've been doing this. I mean, people start off with good character. Will they finish with good character? Because we always start off with agreeing to do the deal together. We shake hands. We make the promise to each other. I promise to lend to them. They promise to pay me back. And we determine the character over time. So character, I could write all this stuff about. Let's find somebody who's creditworthy. Let's find somebody who's reliable. Many times it starts out that way, and only time will determine the true value of a person's character. So we want to look at it as part of the overall risk management of deciding on funding a loan. Capital capacity is really important, right? Because we want to look at their ability to have the resources to finish the project. Do they have enough money? Are they putting enough skin in the game when they make their down payment? Do they have enough equity in the investment? Now, as a private money lender, I'm recommending that you don't fund loans over 65% loan to value. So you're going to make your own underwriting decisions. But that means that if they're buying something and rehabbing it, they have to have a third of the money invested in the transaction for me to put my money in there as one of their lenders. I'm going to go back there for a second. So character is important, and it's developed over time. Capacity is more important. Many times, we live in the gig economy. A lot of people are self-employed, whether it's an Uber driver or whether it's a salesperson, or a lot of people became gig people after the pandemic. And now you have to look at their bank statements. That's what we do. We look at 4 to 6 months bank statements, sometimes longer, to see what kind of deposits they're making. Because obviously someone that's making $5, $10, $15, $30,000 a month has more capacity than somebody that has a rental property and only brings in $2,000 or $3,000 a month. It doesn't mean that I won't lend to that person that only has $2,000 or $3,000 a month, but I'm going to limit my loan size and risk when I see that. How do we determine valuations? Well, most lenders use appraisals. We use broker price opinions, interior broker price opinions, which means that we have a real estate broker that goes out to the property and takes the pictures inside. Because we can get the values online nowadays through all of the different services that are online, like Zillow, right? And their competitors, Redfin, etc. So the first thing that I do when I receive a loan request is, while I'm on the phone, give me the address. And first thing I do is go to Google Maps. I look at the property. Do I like it, not like it? And then I just do a 360. Do I like the house next to it? Do I like the rest of the block? Do I like the street? Do I like what's on the street? And that is going to be what I recommend for you to be the first place you start. And if that's going to stop some deals, or the deal's going to continue to happen based on what you see there. So I would say start with Zillow, start with Google Maps, and use those as your beginning. Now, if you're going to fund a deal, then you're going to want the interior broker price opinion or appraisal, because those are going to have the inside pictures, because that's what you can't see from the internet. You can't see typically. I mean, if the property just sold or is on the market on the MLS, there'll be a lot of pictures. But let's say that that's not the case, then you definitely always want an interior broker price opinion. An interior broker price opinion is only a couple $100, and it can be done quickly, versus an appraisal on a 2-flat might be $600, $700, $800. So you could determine what you're going to accept. We like interior broker price opinions for our business. If the loan is a refinance, it's quite simple. You get the interior valuation. Now you determine you look at the comps online, and you determine your maximum loan to value for that loan. If the property is a purchase or rehab, you have to take other things into consideration, such as the as-is value and then the after repair value once all the work is completed. You also have to look at a scope of work if there's a rehab budget. And this should be very detailed. We have spreadsheets that we could share with you that we use, and best practices for managing the borrowers who are putting a budget together and a scope of work. Because when you do a rehab loan, I never recommend that you would fund all the deal at once. You would fund a portion of the rehab. Like, let's say there's a $50,000 rehab budget. Well, you're not going to give the $50,000 to the contractor and the borrower at the closing. You're going to release like a third of that or 25% of that and have them come back as the work is completed, lien waivers are signed, and verified. And this is another reason why you get to earn the higher interest rates and the fees, because a lot of lenders don't want to be involved in rehab projects. But the overall takeaway for collateral valuation is use a interior broker price opinion or an appraisal, whichever fits your needs, as long as you have good inside pictures to give you the full picture of what's going on with that asset. Let's talk about equity spread. And the equity spread refers to the difference between the loan amount and the value of the property being financed. It's it's one thing to say that, oh, let's only lend 65% loan to value. But there's another rule that we have besides loan to value, and that's equity spread. And that matters more when you're dealing with loan amounts under $100,000. In this example, if we take a $400,000 property and the lender provides a loan of $300,000 to the borrower, then we have a $100,000 equity spread. But we're at 75% loan to value. So the spread is there because in case something goes wrong with the transaction, there's enough equity in the deal so if you were ever to have to take the property back, that you wouldn't have to put in a lot more money, or that you would make sure that you can get all of your principal back. So we, once again, never recommend lending more than 65% loan to value, and we recommend that you have an equity spread. Go back there. We recommend that you have a minimum $50,000 equity spread. So in Chicago, which is my primary market, there's a lot of loans we do for $50,000. And let's say the house is $100,000. And they say, well, Dan, your advertising says you'll do 65% loan to value. We'll do 65% loan to value max, or we have to have a $50K equity spread. And in this case, I would only lend $50,000 on a $100,000 property max, because I want that extra spread in case something goes wrong. And I think you should always have a minimum number of equity spread for your market. So let's go over some basic guidelines to help manage the risk. The golden rule: 65% loan to value max. And remember, if their credit or income is less, then bring that loan to value down. Rule number 2, have an equity spread minimum of $50,000. Rule number 3, the borrower should have liquid reserves of 3 to 6 months. The more the merrier, but let's see when we look at those bank statements that they have some reserves. Experience, yes, it's preferred, right, that somebody has experience. But there's a lot of first-timers that are going to get out there. Realtors, business people, motivated individuals that got a good deal. Use your gut. Does the loan request make sense? The amount of money that they're putting into the deal versus the amount that you would lend them. The overall amount of work that needs to be done. The speed of sales in the marketplace. We didn't talk about that, but we could have talked about that. Are the houses selling quickly in that area, or are they moving slowly? And last but not least, would you be okay if you owned a property? Never lend on a property that you would not want to own, because that's the worst case scenario, right? You lend your money, somebody doesn't pay you, and you have to take the property back. And what I say, when people used to ask me, well, what do you do, Dan? I go, well, I lend money for a living. I rent my money. And then every once in a while, somebody gives me a free house, right? So it's all a matter of perspective and risk management. That's one way that you could look at this business. I hope you found these underwriting guidelines useful. You should take some of them and put them into your underwriting guidelines and then improve upon them if you can. So let's wrap this up. You should now be a little bit more informed on basic underwriting guidelines and criteria that you can use for underwriting investor real estate loans. Now you know, once you learn how to evaluate these guidelines, whether or not you want to risk your money, invest your money with a particular loan request. And I hope that you are going to be ready to get lending and start the experience of funding a loan and receiving the monthly payments that we talk about, because that's why we do this, right? To earn a good yield and receive those monthly payments. So go out there, get started, call us if you have any question, and let's get your first deal funded. I look forward to coming back next week and sharing some more information on how you can become a successful private money lender.